Welcome back to Women Who Heal. Today's episode is a powerful reminder that true healing from PMDD is possible. For 15 years, Rachelle's life revolved around tracking her cycle, bracing for emotional storms, and trying every treatment she could find. Nothing brought lasting relief. Even a hysterectomy began to feel like a real option. But then she discovered a deeper truth. PMDD isn't just about hormones. It's tied to subconscious patterns that she'd carried for years. Through the Red Tent program, Rachelle healed at the root level. Now she no longer tracks her cycle, no longer fears her emotions, and just booked a holiday because PMDD no longer controls her. In this episode, she shares the belief that kept her stuck for over a decade, the shift that made healing possible, and how she found emotional freedom. So hello, Rachelle. It is so lovely to have you here to tell your story. We have just met for the first time, even though you feel like you know me very well because you've done the whole program and seen a lot of me and heard a lot of me and had me in your ears. And
Yes,
but I'm getting
absolutely.
to meet you and hear all about your story, which is really unique, actually, for this podcast. Normally, I know the woman already. But yeah, I'm meeting you. So tell me all about yourself. This is really, really cool.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a single mom with two teenage daughters. I live about an hour outside of Toronto in Ontario, Canada. And I was diagnosed with PMDD, honestly, probably close, I'm going to say 15 or more years ago. And I was diagnosed with PMDD in a time when nobody talked about it, nobody had
Yeah.
smartphones. Yeah, my experience has been very unique and interesting because nobody knew what that was. Um, as far as I know, PMDD became an official diagnosis in, I think, 1991.
Mm.
So, yeah, so I'm thinking, I'm going to say 15 years. No
Hmm.
one had smartphones. There was no internet. There was no Google search for PMDD. There was nothing, but I just happened to have a female doctor. And I went in during one of my physicals and said, I was working as a mental health worker.
Mm.
My background's in social work. So I was working in a group program as a mental health worker. And day 21 of my cycle, the rage that I was experiencing was just so overwhelming. And I guess I just kind of figured out, for whatever, I guess I was tracking my cycle at the time. Okay, day 21 is going to be a tough
Mm.
day at work.
Mm. Mm.
Um, so I just mentioned this kind of in passing to my family doctor, and she asked me, she's like, have you heard of PMDD? Of course I hadn't. Nobody was talking about it. It's not like you can go to your girlfriends or there was a Facebook group. So my
Mm.
doctor mentioned this. And so what I did is I went on Amazon and I bought the only book that I could find about
Mm.
PMDD, and I purchased that book, and I was reading through and I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I'm experiencing.
Mm. Mm.
And the book was just very basic: eat better, exercise, SSRIs, different supplements. I tried all the supplements. I tried the St. John's wort. I tried the Vitex. I
Mhm.
had spreadsheets of trying these different
Oh,
supplements to
yeah.
manage what I was experiencing at that time.
Mm.
Then I had my second daughter. So I was diagnosed after my first daughter. I had my second daughter. And then after that, um, my symptoms really increased
Uh-huh.
and became very problematic. Also, I was a single mom, or actually, to be very clear, I was in an abusive relationship. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that as I kind of tell my story a bit. I was in an abusive relationship at the time with their father, not being able to identify that as being abusive.
The crazy thing is, just to comment on that, is when you're having this PMDD thing hit you each month, the self-trust just gets eroded because you go, wait, am I? No, because no, maybe it's me. And this the self-doubt and the gaslighting of yourself is so full on. You can stay in a bad situation for a long time and just keep
Yeah.
going, yeah, I'm the problem.
I just had goosebumps when you said that, because just of how accurate that is. Because every single month it's like, oh, I just have, it's just it's PMDD, it's PMDD, like it's this paranoia, this
Mm.
anxiety, that's just PMDD, right?
Mm.
So I really, I didn't have that. I didn't trust my inner knowing. which is something that I'm able to do so well now after healing the PMDD and just doing all of the work that I've done over the past couple of years. But yeah, you're right on with that. The self-trust. And it's very interesting. I had this thought this morning thinking about speaking with you today. When you're healthy and you look back at the past, you realize like how unhealthy you were after you do that healing, right? Looking back at because that was the normal. And now I realize that I have a new normal now. I am calm all the time, literally calm all the time, which is just like so mind blowing. I'm going on vacation tomorrow with my 2 teenage daughters, and my period is due probably within the next week. I just booked the vacation. I didn't even look at my
Yeah,
calendar.
we are not getting married on that date. We're not, oh gosh, there's that holiday. Oh no, no, it
Yeah.
can't be then because you think it's going to be destroyed.
Right? It's just,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not going to be able to cope. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to be able to go out in public. So, yeah, just going back again. So, I had the diagnosis. I had my second daughter. It was amplified. And PMDD was definitely controlling my life. It was in the driver's seat of the car. All of the decisions I made was in consultation with my period tracker. And I have memories from that time when my kids were young. I remember one day specifically where I sat on the couch the whole entire day that my children were at school, just staring at the door, thinking, how am I going to leave the house? The anxiety and the agoraphobia that I was experiencing was so significant. I remember just sitting there on the couch, staring at the door literally for 5-6 hours, thinking, how am I going to leave the house and walk down the street to the school to pick up my children? I did do it, but I spent my entire day, like, I'm just giving you an idea of how
How
significant
bad
it
it was.
was.
Yeah.
The suicidal ideation was very significant, probably from the time and once I was diagnosed with PMDD, I looked back on my whole life and I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, depression was significant for me. The rage was significant. The anxiety was significant. Intrusive thoughts and suicidal ideation. I remember you saying, and I don't know where, if it was in the Red Tent program or maybe on Instagram, but you mentioned said that your mind is very quiet these days. And I can just really relate to that because my mind is so quiet these days. And my mind was bullying me. Yeah, the change is so significant. I had a compliment from one of my friends recently, which was one of the most beautiful things I've heard. And she said to me, she said, Rachelle, you are absolutely unrecognizable from 2 years ago.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was just like, which is accurate.
Because you feel unrecognized. You look back and go,
Even, today I booked this podcast with you. I don't know what day of my cycle. I'm going to look. Oh, it's day 19, but still, right? Things start getting tricky around this time of my cycle. I would have never in the past even booked a conversation. And today, yeah, I'm just so calm and self-assured. So how I learned about you, Natalie, is I think I signed up for a PMDD summit. I'm going to say it was about 2 years ago.
yeah.
And my partner at the time sent me one of your podcast that you had done. I remember so clearly listening to that podcast. I was walking home after dropping my car off at the mechanic. It was a beautiful spring day. So I'm listening to this podcast. And within the first 5 minutes, you said that you used to have PMDD, but you no longer have it. And when I heard you say that, I had shivers. I had tingles throughout my entire body, from my head to my toes. And I guess my first thought was, like, does this really work? Can this really work for me? Because I'm telling you, I tried everything. Literally everything. I was looking into hysterectomies. They don't do hysterectomies for PMDD in Canada. I was looking into the States. I was looking into, they do them in Britain. So in my 30s, my late 30s, early 40s, I'm like, okay, that's my answer. So I hear this podcast, and then I had this fear of like, oh, it worked for her. What if I'm not good enough and it can't work for me?
Yeah.
Right? What if I'm too broken in this illness for it
Yeah.
to work with me, and having that self-doubt and that fear?
Mm.
Yeah. And then so when I heard you say that, I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna do this. And I had money in my savings at that time for whatever. So I signed up for the Red Tent program, and then I had 2 RTT sessions. And after the first RTT session, I didn't have PMDD symptoms that month. And I
Mm.
read about those stories, and I heard your story, and I honestly, you know, but I had that session, and I'm telling you, that was the most powerful experience I've had in my life thus far. And I'm close
Mm.
to 50 years old. I cried that entire, like, I released so much. I released decades. And of course, yeah, what you said on that podcast is that you no longer have PMDD. And you also, talked about how we don't talk about how the early childhood trauma is, um, contributes to PMDD symptoms, right?
Massively.
Yes, I'm a woman. Yes, I have a cycle. Yes, I'm an empath. I'm very sensitively designed, always have been.
Mm.
And no one talks about the childhood trauma.
Yeah. It's
And
the
it makes
biggest thing.
so much sense. I love being a woman. And yes, I go through periods of my cycle where I'm more sensitive, which is just so beautiful. And now that that trauma has been healed, I can be sensitive, I can feel things deeply
Mhm.
and not be triggered because there's nothing there, or I have an understanding, or the way that I talk to myself during those times or when those things come up is just so significantly different.
Mm. Really, and women can be afraid that, oh, I don't want to lose my sensitivity. And I said, don't worry, you're not going to lose your sensitivity. It's just not going to hurt
Yeah.
anymore.
And a huge part of the shift for me with now no longer having PMDD is honoring that cycle,
Yes.
right? I
Mm.
think my whole life just being socialized, as a woman, oh, sorry, I'm crying. Sorry, I'm just apologizing for that sensitivity, apologizing for taking up space. So now I can communicate to my kids, oh, I'm at the point of my time in my cycle where I just need some more space to myself. So I'm going to go watch a movie in my room. So
Yeah.
just being able to identify what you need and honor that has
Yeah.
been a huge, huge shift.
Yeah. Seeing the seasons.
One of the biggest challenges being a woman is that we are living in a patriarchal society,
Mm.
and it is a patriarchal structure where we're working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. We're
Mhm.
not allowed to live like mammals. We're being asked to live like ants, right? Where we're just
Yeah.
marching
Keep
along,
on
and that,
marching. Mm.
right? And yeah, we're just marching along, and that can work for men because they're not
Yeah.
cyclic,
They've got a
right?
24-hour cycle where testosterone peaks in the morning. That's it.
Exactly. So they
It
get up, they
just,
do their workout, they go to work, they come
yep,
home.
start the 24-hour cycle again. There are some
Exactly.
changes happening, like I heard that in Spain, they're actually giving a 3-day menstrual leave, and you can
Oh,
take it whenever you want.
beautiful.
You can just say, "Menstrual leave, please," and, you can take it in your luteal phase, and there's no questions asked, it's just,
That
um
is
so that's
magnificent.
a positive change. I mean,
Yeah.
I run my business this way. I have,
Yes.
and
Same.
I think it's wonderful when you can be self-employed. Not everyone has that privilege to
Yes.
be able to say, "Hey, it's luteal, so this is going to be my rest and create week." I actually blocked that out in my calendar. Right? It's rest and create week.
I
So this is
love it.
where, there's no, because it takes a lot to give a session, and the RTT is it's
Yes.
so focused and it's so in tuned and it's so, I'm right there with every person I work with, and I
Mhm.
mean, we'll get to that in a minute. You know very well what that's like. Um,
Yeah.
so I want to be able to give from a really full cup, to
Yes.
those that I work with, and also not ask too much of myself when I need to. Hey, listen, I'm running. I always say I'm running a uterus here. Like,
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
you're running a uterus. It's not like this is a baby machine, or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
Like, this thing can hold and keep life alive, and it's got running costs. It's an expensive thing to run it. It's because it brings life into the world, and we
I
don't use
like
it all that
that.
often. But we've got to allow for the running costs of the uterus, and
Hmm.
yeah, and there are costs, especially as we shed the lining every month. That's expensive. It
Yeah,
takes a lot of energy and a lot of minerals and a lot of, all the iron out it goes.
absolutely.
It takes a lot. So we need to give us this, and our bodies give us the signs. They do. But if you're in a workplace and you're working 40 hours a week, you just got to
Yeah,
push through those signs and say, I'm sorry, I know you'd
you
like to
do.
help right now, but you can't. Um, yeah, so I've
Yeah,
had,
that's so true. It's very promising that there are changes being made and that people are having conversations. Even with perimenopause, I'm so grateful. I'm 48 and starting to experience some symptoms of perimenopause, and just the conversations
mm,
and the validating and the sense of community that exists now, that I feel so grateful to
me
be
too.
going through this shift
Yeah.
in a time where people are talking about it and validating, and you can have that conversation with your partner because your partner's listening to the podcast too, right? So,
Yes, exactly. I've
um,
just sent I've just sent a podcast to my husband going, you've got to listen to this. Have you heard the
yes,
one with Dr. Marie Claire?
yeah,
Yeah, she's such a
she's
voice.
doing wonderful work.
Yeah, all these women coming forth and talking about their experiences. I mean, this was unheard of 20 years ago. So you went through the program, and I mean, you can
Yes,
go as deeply into this as you want. So you had
yeah,
depression, suicidal ideation,
yeah,
agoraphobia,
rage,
rage,
intrusive
anxiety,
thoughts,
intrusive thoughts, all these things.
OCD level anxiety.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you would have come in going, oh my God, like this is going to take 20 sessions at least. I don't even know where you're going to begin with me. I'm such a mess. You know that feeling you have, like it's so complicated. It's so complicated. Like
yeah, yeah,
I'm not going to be, like, you said, I think I'm going to be too broken. Yet lo and behold, after your first session, and I mean, it just seems too good to be true. I know people hear this and think,
yeah,
that just sounds just too good to be true. But
yeah.
I always say, I use a lot of metaphors when I teach, and I always
Mhm.
talk about it as like it's an upside down octopus. You can just visualize it because this is just audio only, this podcast. So if you can just maybe put your hand in front of you with your palm facing you and just wiggle all your fingers, there's your upside down octopus. So you've got all these legs, and you think, right, there's the rage, that leg there, and there's the anxiety, and there's the depression, and there's the agoraphobia, and got all these things. And I always say, it doesn't really matter which leg you slide down, you're going to get to the head of the octopus. And very often,
Mhm.
they're all linked to the same thing. And when you can heal
Yes.
that at root cause level, head of the octopus level, then all the legs shrivel up, and are no longer there. So for you, you had all these wiggly octopus legs. What was,
Mhm.
can you recall what it was that sort of made them all fall? What cut off the octopus's head for you, if that's possible to remember?
Yeah, well, so the first session I had, we addressed depression, the depression. I, I forget where I heard this. Perhaps it was, yeah, during in the Red Tent program, but you said um, it's always a good idea to address depression first because depression is a freeze response, right? So when you're in freeze, it's really challenging to do any of the work. So when we
Mm,
alleviate the freeze response and we come out of that freeze response, then we can kind of see, okay, what's the next layer of healing? So
yeah.
in depression was significant for me. I was in bed a couple of days a month, just not functioning, and the suicidal ideation and the intrusive thoughts and the bullying, like my mind bullying myself. That was all depression, right? Or my kids are better off without me.
Mm, mm.
I'm a terrible parent. All of those kind of intrusive thoughts, which is the furthest thing from the truth. So the first RTT session I had, I addressed the depression. And so it's very interesting because we're going back here. I guess I'm going to say about 2 years, or it might have been just a year and a. I don't know timelines very well, but let's say 2 years ago is when I had
Mm.
the first RTT session.
Have a look. I can actually see the date.
Oh, can you? Okay. It was
Yeah,
in the fall.
it was October 2022.
Okay, yeah, so 2.5 years.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That
Time
makes
flies
that
when you're having
okay,
fun.
that makes sense. During when I took the Red Tent program. So every childhood, every scene I went back to from my childhood um, was around abuse from one of my parents in my childhood home.
Mhm.
And I always understood that there was abuse, but I never called it abuse. And I just didn't really like it. Some of the connections that I was able to make about the beliefs that I formed about myself
Mm.
through in my childhood home. I have
Mm.
goosebumps again, Natalie. Just talking about this.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
haven't
me
really
too.
talked about this in detail, right?
Mm.
Um, so I lost my train of thought there a little bit, but I understood, I have like had these conscious memories of what I experienced in my past and as a child or had some ideas. And when I had the RTT session, the detail that I could see these scenes blew my mind. I could see the wallpaper in my childhood home bathroom. I could see
Mm. Mm.
the detail on the curtain. I'm having goosebumps again. Like I could see every detail of my childhood home and I could see everyone animated. I went back in a really powerful way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just incredibly powerful. Then, of course, I listened to the recording for 21 days or even longer. And so, fast forward, I was in a relationship with a man at the time when I took the Red Tent program and
Mhm.
had the RTT sessions. And about 6 months after that, I started realizing that he was a narcissist.
You created the same pattern again, sort of just
I did, Natalie, and
mm.
so but I didn't even understand it at the time. I was so focused on leaving that relationship and understanding narcissism and doing this deep dive into what narcissistic personality disorder was.
Mhm.
Again, people are talking about it. People weren't talking about this in the past.
Mm.
Right.
Mhm.
So I realized that I was in a relationship. That relationship ended, and I started, grieving and doing the work of leaving that relationship. And then I realized, oh, I had my children with a narcissist. And then I had another relationship in between those with someone who actually was diagnosed by a psychiatrist as having NPD, along with
Mm.
some other
Mm.
mental health stuff. Probably 2 months after realizing all of that, I woke up in a sweat in my bed, those moments where you like sit up straight in your bed and I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, my parent was a narcissist. So all of those, and I didn't, and that's the thing about the RTT session that I had and doing the Red Tent program. It started this domino effect of healing for me and inner knowing and realization where everything just made sense. And I didn't even realize that after the session, right? I'm like, oh, wow, okay, that was really powerful. I just
Mm.
cried for
Mm.
2 hours. I'm, doing all this work and oh, I don't have any symptoms and oh, I feel safe. And, I can keep myself safe now and just doing all of that work and understanding there was abuse in the childhood home but not making that connection. So that's why it was so powerful for me. It was like the starting point of a
Mm.
whole domino effect where I'm
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
oh, I have been even just understanding that I experienced narcissistic abuse since I was in the womb.
Mm.
That
Mm.
was the root of the PMDD, Natalie, without a shadow of a doubt.
And what I'm always looking for, if we can
Yeah.
just go back to the scenes where you said the beliefs I formed. And people think, oh yeah, I've got these beliefs, but I like to always explain, well, why did we get these beliefs?
Yeah.
People think, oh, because I picked it up from my parent. No, what it comes from is making sense of confusion. You come
Yes.
into the world. I mean, for you, you've probably felt it since you were in the womb itself. But
Yeah.
generally, we come into the world thinking, I'm lovable, I'm worthy, I'm good enough, I deserve. And
Yeah.
something happens where we're not given the love from a parent in the way we expect. And I mean, let's face it, unconditional love is pretty hard to uphold as a parent all the time. And
Yeah.
sometimes we
Absolutely.
misinterpret things like, oh, mum was late to pick me up from kindergarten. That must mean I don't matter. Well, no,
Yes.
her car broke down. Like, sometimes the interpretations we make with our little child brain it's the best we can come up with the understanding we have. It's not always correct. Either
Yes.
because you were loved and you misinterpreted it, or you made it mean, well, my parents not loving me properly, I mustn't be lovable. Now it makes sense.
Yes.
I'm not lovable, that's why. Instead of, a child will never say, oh, my parents are narcissists. That explains everything. A child will
Yeah.
never come to that conclusion. And this is the power of it. When you bring in your adult understanding, you can bring in a new meaning. And so it's not about changing beliefs or eradicating beliefs. It's about outgrowing the belief and going, yeah, that was what I thought when I was 4. That's the best I could
Yes.
come up with. I also believed in Santa Claus then. Well, I've just outgrown that. I can see another reason for the whole thing now, and that has lit up the darkness and
Yes. And
changed
it
everything.
makes
It's
sense.
changed the story. The event's the same, the meaning is different. And so, and the meaning was the only thing still hurting you because the event's done. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And one of my favorite things about RTT is that it's such a beautiful balance between scientific, evidence-based, theory with the power of hypnotherapy, but also it was just the most beautiful inner child healing
Mm.
work. It almost felt like a shamanic
Yeah.
journey
Yeah.
for me. Like it was so spiritually powerful
Mm.
and beautiful. And that's what I love about about RTT is the combination and the marriage of that. So so I'll add 6 weeks after my first RTT session,
Mm.
it was so powerful and so transformative for me that I just knew that I had to learn how to give this gift to other
Mm.
people.
Mhm.
And so I did sign up for the course and became a rapid transformational therapist
Oh,
about a
amazing.
year and a half ago. And so now I feel like there is a reason I had these experiences in my life with, the mind choosing the familiar and me repeating the pattern of attracting narcissistic partners.
Mm.
And so now I'm working as a rapid transformational therapist with women who've experienced narcissistic abuse and just
Mm.
working with them to heal the relationship with
With
themselves.
themselves, yeah. The dynamic is always like if you've got a narcissist and if you're with a narcissist, and this is where women get trapped, like, oh, it's blaming the narcissist and they're so bad and this person wasn't, and you'll find plenty of people to commiserate with you and blame and say, oh, you poor thing. But you'll only repeat it again until you realize I I drew that in. I was a match for that. So, and
Hmm.
always the wounded empath. You had said, I'm an
Yes.
empath. You were a wounded empath,
Yes.
the really deeply feeling. But if you're wounded, you can always be taken advantage of. It's like wounds mean I've got holes, and
Yeah.
vampires can come and sink their teeth into those holes.
Yes.
It's like what
I
it's like.
read something, I read a post recently and it said, you don't, what is it? You don't attract abusive partners, but there is a reason why you tolerate them. You
Mm,
tolerate the abusive behavior. And I think that's what it was for me. It felt so normal.
mhm,
Dysregulation felt so normal for me. I just didn't think anything of it. Like, even if you asked me 2 years ago, have I ever been in an abusive relationship before? Have I ever experienced abuse? I would have said no, because I didn't know
mm,
how to
mhm,
recognize it, because that was my normal. And looking back now at how, because I'm so regulated now, all the time, all month, looking back, like I was so, and I was living in survival mode my whole entire life, right? Because I was constantly in that fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Please love me, just, yeah, don't hurt me. If I'm good enough, if I'm quiet enough, if I'm pretty enough,
mhm,
if I'm thin enough, then you're not going to hurt me. So
mm,
um,
mhm.
I'm in a new relationship for the last 6 months, going on 7 months, and it's the first healthy, intimate relationship I've ever had in my life at age
Mm,
48. And oh
amazing.
my God, it's wonderful. And it's
Mm.
night and day.
Oh,
It is night and day. I'm so calm, no confusion, no anxiety, no stress, yeah,
Mm,
no anxious attachment, just healthy attachment. And it's really, really beautiful. It's a huge
incredible.
gift. Yeah.
So your first session was on the depression, and
Yes.
often you'll know this now, having trained in RTT, that
Yes.
depression, and this would make sense in your case. There's usually the two main reasons that people end up developing depression is one is the life I thought I was going to live is not available to me.
Hmm.
I can't be me. So I'm going to have to be somebody else that fits in.
Hmm.
I'll have to play a role. And no one really wants to live a life not being who they are. It's like, what's the point? It feels, no wonder apathy sets in, because I can't be me. And you don't even realize you're not being you because you get so used to playing the role and fitting in. But it does eventually create depression because your soul, your truth, the real you is trapped inside and becoming, stagnant and very sad. So
Yeah.
that's one reason. And then the other is just this constant negative self-talk, which you had plenty of, that inner critic just beating you down all day long. No one can stand that. That'd make anyone depressed. So you had this
Yes.
depression session, and
Yep.
then once you sort of got out of that, and it's sort of as apathy and depression are pretty low down on the emotional scale, so you have to work your way up the emotional scale.
Hmm.
So you start there and we move up. And what was next? Once you lifted the depression?
The second session, I focused on anger.
Yeah, because once you lift the depression, and, and it's often the
Yeah.
next thing that comes is people like, I am furious at what's happened. I can't believe that I allowed this. How did they get away with
Yeah.
it?
Or just angry that you wasted so much time. I think
Mm,
like I had a lot of anger, like, oh my God, like I just, not wasted decades of your life, but just anger everywhere. And like you said, I like that octopus metaphor because it is all interconnected, isn't it? I remember when I had the depression session, I originally went in wanting to work on jealousy, but
mm,
the jealousy, it made more sense, depression. And it is all interrelated, right? Because it's going back to those childhood scenes where you didn't matter,
mm,
that your
mm.
parents, it's all connected. So
Yeah.
it does, like you said, it doesn't even really matter. So then the second session was anger. And so I went back to childhood scenes. And this is interesting. Tell me what you think about this. Because the first session was depression. I went back younger. I went back to like 5, 6, 7. And then the second session, I went back more middle school. So like
Mm,
12, 12,
mm,
13, like a little bit older,
mm.
which is kind of interesting, isn't it? Whereas the depression, the root cause of the depression kind of started very early. And then I was trying to break out of it with the anger. And so
Mm,
then the anger, the childhood scenes that I went back to were all around never feeling safe. I didn't feel safe at home. I didn't feel safe at school. I was being significantly bullied. There
mm,
was like I was just completely isolated, completely alone. And that's where the anger came from. Nowhere was safe.
mm.
And anger always comes from having your boundaries
Yeah, it's that
pushed,
powerlessness. It's
right?
like,
Either you're not able to set your own boundaries or you're setting a boundary and someone is not respecting your boundary. So when you're
yeah.
being bullied at school, like you have this boundary of the kids are pushing that boundary, right? Like I was being physically assaulted and I was just like this precious, sensitive, sweet
Mm,
little chubby girl being physically having physical bruises from the boys in my class at the age of 12. So
mm,
the anger went back to the root cause because I couldn't stand up for myself. I didn't have a voice. No one
mm.
would have listened to me anyways.
And that's what makes you the perfect prey. You know, children who are bullied, very often it'll start with them not feeling like they're worthy or good enough at home. And when they get to school, children have this animal instinct for someone who doesn't believe in themselves, who's shy, who doesn't think they're good enough. And they sort of just go for the jugular. The bullies are looking for that easy prey that's not going to fight back, that's not
Yeah.
going to go and say anything because no one's going to protect me anyway. So you become really vulnerable to being bullied if you don't believe in yourself. If you don't believe, that's, I think, the best protection we can give our children against being bullied is good self-esteem and a feeling of you can come to me with anything, and um, just that safety at home, so that they carry that with them into the playground. And what you're
Absolutely.
saying about the teenage stuff, it makes sense. That's when the hormones start coming in, and you start becoming more
Yes.
of, you're coming into womanhood, you're coming into your own, being your own person, and the anger, and that's all the Alanis Morissette feeling that you get when you come into your teens.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that that's where you went back to for the anger that you felt.
Hmm.
So you had your second session, and then, so 6 weeks later, you decided to train in the RTT
Yes.
yourself. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And now you're taking, and this is what we all do. Like, I've done it with PMDD, and I suggest this to anyone. Your own journey has so much wisdom in it. So you've
Absolutely.
got your tool, you've got coaching, and you've got RTT, and anything else you bring in along to what you offer.
Hmm.
That's just one part of it. The thing that makes it really truly valuable is the lived experience that you draw upon the entire time, that you can't go
Yes.
to school for. You've been through
Oh, absolutely.
it's the university of life for that stuff, and there's no,
Yeah.
you know, I often say, what would you have to be paid to give that wisdom back? As if you never learned it, and it's wiped from your mind.
Yeah. Immeasurable, really, isn't it?
You just wouldn't, it'd be like, no, keep your money, because I would never, there's nothing you could pay me, because this is so valuable.
It is.
And so I always remind people to remember that part. They think, well, I paid this much for my training and my university degree. And yeah, but how much is your life experience worth that you are now bringing to those you work with? It's so
So
valuable.
true.
Um,
And that's why I'm so grateful for all of it, Natalie. Honestly, do I wish that I discovered RTT maybe a couple of years before I did? Sure, maybe, but uh, the journey the journey is the way that it's supposed to be, and I'm just so grateful for every step of it in my
mm,
own life, right? And when I made the connection that I had 3 narcissistic partners and then in the childhood home, and I'm like, who does that? Like, I've met women who have had, like, oh, one narcissistic ex, and then they learn their lesson and then they move on. That wasn't my experience. Like, it took me over and over. And then I had the grand finale where I'm like, okay, it all made, I needed that grand finale. But, and yeah, that's why I'm so grateful. And I have no regrets about all of those experiences, because that's been the journey and the beautiful process of my life. And now I'm in a place where I'm able to share that wisdom and that knowledge
yeah,
and help other women to heal the relationship with themselves and just create a different future for themselves. Whenever I work with a client and they talk about, because narcissists will drain you in every way possible, including financially. The amount
mhm,
of money that I have lost to
mm,
to narcissists is like ridiculous. I could have bought a house. And what I always say is consider the money that you lost to the narcissist tuition, right?
mm,
That's the tuition. Unfortunately, yes, it sucks to lose money, to go into bankruptcy, to lose your house, because this does happen when you have a narcissistic partner. It's happened to me. Just consider that to be tuition for learning a really
yeah,
valuable life lesson,
mm.
right? And then let it go, and then use it to empower you.
With everything you've learned, go out and use
Yeah.
that to make all that money back. That
Yes, yeah, you
you
can.
know.
It does come back to you
Mm.
and your children, right? But how amazing is it that my 19-year-old and my 14-year-old can now learn the lessons that I'm learning at 48?
I was going to say, how your daughter, because these are daughters, they're young
Yeah.
women. they're the next generation coming through. And I think our daughters benefit so much from the healing that we do. You know, they say it stops with me. When you do
Mhm.
this work, you know, this has been going on for generations, but it stops with me. How do you feel about how it's going to be for them because of the work that you've done?
Yeah, I think this generation, like I mentioned, their ages 19 and 14, it is so incredibly amazing to see the knowledge and the self-awareness
Hmm.
that they have,
Yeah.
that like I had no idea about anything when I was in my teens, right? Like it's just a completely different world. And I think it's because we're having a different relationship with our children than our parents had with us, where our kids can come home and tell us if they're being bullied, and we're going to make sure to keep them safe. And I have conversations, I'm very open with my kids. And even in regards to their father, I'll mention, oh, how did that feel? And just having those open conversations with them so that they can have the insight and the self-awareness and be able to set boundaries.
When because boundaries is a term that gets thrown around a lot, and I've probably said this before on this podcast. Um, the way I like to think of boundaries is that you have this, I guess, I was saying before, you have holes. As a wounded empath, they're like holes that people can just come up with their straws and just suck you dry, because you're like, as long as you approve of me, just have, fine, take what you want. It's that sort of thing. And in that case, when you've got all those holes, and I often see the way people speak about boundaries is almost like putting gaffer tape over the holes, going, I need to put a boundary in because these people, they're always taking from me. So I've got to put a boundary in. And it's this sort of really defensive way sometimes. I've got to put in the boundary. And I often think, you wouldn't even need the boundary because they wouldn't even try, because it wouldn't be possible. You know,
Yes.
think of, I always, it doesn't really help because I always think of Barack Obama, right? Because I just think you wouldn't even try that on with Barack. You just wouldn't even do it. Like it just wouldn't even be something you'd ask because you can feel it's not available. So you're not even going to try. Like Jane Fonda, you're just not going to bother. Helen Mirren, you're not going to bother. You just need
Yes.
to put a boundary because you don't even go there to start with. That's what we're wanting to be aiming for. When you walk into a room, there's no need to put in any boundaries. You're whole, you're intact. There's no holes in your hull. Um,
Yes. Yeah, I like that. And
yeah,
that's very much what we were talking about earlier. It's like what you tolerate, right? Like you just don't tolerate
it's
being
just not
treated
available.
poorly. It's just not even,
Yeah, it's just
yeah,
not even available. You
it's not
can't.
available.
Mm. And so that sort of thing for a narcissist, that's, I'm just thinking of like a shark spitting out a human going, oh, yuck. It's
Dealing
just
with
like,
narcissists is actually quite easy because once you stop giving them supply, they just disappear. It's
yeah,
it's actually quite simple. You just stop fawning.
yeah.
It's quite simple, really.
Mm. It's that moment where you say, oh, I see the game. I see it.
Yeah.
And I'm not playing it anymore.
Yes,
It's almost like coming out of the matrix in a way, or
it
I was stuck
is.
in a video game and
Yeah.
I was being controlled, and I was just like little Sonic the Hedgehog jumping for the rings, and I didn't know. And then I
Yeah.
stepped out of it and I've gone, oh, I see what I was doing there. Yeah, I'm not in that game anymore. Yeah, I'm not playing. I
Yeah.
drop the drop the controller and go, yeah, I'm not playing that game anymore. And
Yeah.
that's really, that's all it takes. There's nothing to gain.
Yeah. Which is it's a little bit of work, like just to learn how to not overextend because you're just so accustomed to like overextending yourself. And then,
Mm.
but again, what we talked about at the beginning of our conversation is just it's that inner knowing and that self-trust and just being able to listen to that, right?
Mm.
And it gets so easy. Like as time goes on and the more you practice, just listening, like you just feel it inside yourself when something's not quite right,
Mm.
right? Almost like if you're getting a spam call, like there's something in you that just like, oh no, this isn't a real call. My bank card has not been compromised. This is a scam. And you just realize it and you hang up the phone.
Yeah.
It's similar
Yeah.
to that. You're just like, oh, I'm overextending. Oh, this doesn't feel right. Okay, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And it just
Yeah.
becomes easier and easier to recognize.
Mm. And sort of, we call it PMDD, and I healed my PMDD,
Mhm.
and I think, but really, you healed depression, you healed suicidal thoughts, you healed rage, you healed intrusive thoughts, you healed agoraphobia, and all of these things came up premenstrually when the hormones shift and put you in touch with all the stuff that was actually there underneath.
Yeah.
And if only we could say that in a sentence.
Yes.
Because, not everyone has exactly the same symptoms. This is why I think
True.
talk about PMDD as though I've got it, like I've got a disease. No, I'm a female with high sensitivity and empathy,
Mhm.
and usually creativity as well,
Yeah.
who feels deeply. And when my hormones shift, I go even further inwards. And when I do, I hit all my unresolved trauma.
Yeah.
That's what that's what I've got.
Yes. But that's because women are desperate, right?
Mm,
They're desperate to alleviate those symptoms.
totally. When you're in pain, you just want it to
Yeah.
go away, and you just want someone to come and rescue you. Just, will someone please come up with a cure for this,
Yes.
please?
Or just tell me what vitamin to take. Some
Yeah,
like
this is
just what
obviously,
is the
maybe
magic
it's magnesium, maybe,
concoction? Yeah.
yeah.
Whatever it is.
Hmm. And we can do all sorts of things. We can take hormones, we can take estrogen, we can, and I'm not, and that's another subject. I'm quite pro HRT, because it's not the hormones that are the problem
Yeah.
with PMDD. It's the trauma, and recognizing it is difficult, because
It is.
even you yourself said, because it's a bit like Stockholm syndrome. It's like, well, it's not an abuser. It's when you've grown up steeped in it.
Yeah.
You don't even, like, you're a fish that doesn't even know it's in water. It's so familiar. What else is there? How do you even know that you've experienced trauma sometimes? And the other thing is that a lot of things that are traumatic for a 2-year-old, or in the womb, you're not even going to remember. Um, with your adult mind looking back, you won't see it as traumatic because it's
Mhm.
too banal. I've had so many sessions where people have opened their eyes and gone, I can't believe it was that. Can't believe that left such a mark on me. It's like, yeah, this is why you've never uncovered it, because it was seemingly too insignificant. But not to you
Yes.
when you were 3. It meant a lot to you when you were 3 or 7.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. So, closing up, what are your closing remarks? How would you wind up our conversation? What would you like to say to a woman, there's a woman right now with headphones in, walking somewhere, listening to our conversation. Isn't it amazing? That's how you heard me
Yes.
those years
Walking
ago.
home.
And there I was. I didn't know you, hearing my story, and it's gone on
Yeah.
to have a ripple effect to change your life. And now you're changing other people's lives with the work that you're doing as a therapist. Like, what
Mm.
an incredible thing. And this has all just happened within, 2.5 years. And
Unrecognizable.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I barely recognize myself, but I also do because this is who I was supposed to be
Yeah.
always, right? I was always supposed to be calm and loving and grounded and regulated. And you've talked a little bit about this, and just PMDD can be a gift, and that luteal phase and even now when things come up, I just consider those triggers are such a gift because you can just look at it and see what needs to be healed,
Yes. Instead of going, I'm crazy, I'm in luteal, I
yeah.
can't listen to any of this. It's actually the opposite.
And
Um,
we are so powerful and we are so insightful, right? We have this self-awareness. Our intuition is always speaking to us. We have this voice inside of us that is always right. We just need to learn how to interpret and to listen to it, right?
mm.
If you feel unsafe, that could be because you're unsafe. So listen to it. It's not because you have PMDD and you must just be anxious and you must just be paranoid because it's the PMDD. And that's why you're feeling unsafe. If you're feeling unsafe, maybe look at what is coming up and where that's coming from.
Mm, mm,
Right? Because when you're in the sensitive part of your cycle, you're just seeing things more clearly and you're feeling things more deeply. We gaslight ourselves all the time.
mm.
when these are messages, right? Messages to keep us safe.
And the thing I always have, I've said this so many times, but I'll just keep drumming this home because it's the most important question you can ever ask. What am I making it mean? Because
Uh-huh.
the meaning that
Yes.
you're giving it is showing you what you already believe. And it's sort of a reverse engineering of what happened in childhood, because when you're little, there's confusion and you give it a meaning.
Mhm.
What did I make it mean? Then that meaning gets stored as your belief system, part of your belief system. And then that belief looks for proof of itself, tries to prove itself
Mhm.
true. And so then an event happens. I'm just trying to think of something that would be upsetting for someone. I don't know, a friend doesn't call you back when they said they would,
Yeah.
and you know you're triggered. You can feel, oh, where's that calmness? Well, no, that inner pendulum is swinging all over the place now, and I don't feel balanced. So the first thing to say is, well, I'm triggered. I'm not calm. This is not peace. What happened? Well, my friend didn't call me back, and now I've got this yucky feeling. What are you making that mean? Well, obviously.
Mhm.
And whenever you say obviously or clearly, that's a sign of black and white thinking. Obviously, I don't matter. So the meaning that you give it is the meaning you made a long time ago. It's sort of that irrational, immediate inference to I don't matter. And then you feel hurt. And then you go, who hurt me? Oh, it's the one who didn't call me back. No, you hurt you by believing you didn't matter. You just didn't realize what was happening.
Mhm.
So you need to sort of question into, what am I making it mean? And then, is that even true? I
Mhm.
don't matter. Oh. And then it's a Byron Katie question.
Yeah.
Can I be certain that that's true? Can I be absolutely sure that that's true? And just that alone will be enough to sort of disarm the bomb. You
Yeah.
take the gunpowder out of the ammunition and just go, oh, that she probably got distracted. Who knows? Could be anything.
Yes.
Anything. A phone might have run out of battery. A child might have needed to go to the emergency room. I don't know. I'm sure there's a good reason, but it's certainly not that I don't matter. And we can do this in every situation and just check, what was I jumping to conclusions about?
Yeah.
And that trigger is showing you what you already believe, and then that's the work.
And
So,
to add on to that, you said something very powerful in the Red Tent program that really stuck with me. And that was, you literally don't need to think a thought that hurts you. Right?
mm-hmm.
We can choose when we become the watcher of our thoughts. We can choose which thoughts we think. And if
Yeah.
you're having a thought that hurts you, my mind is telling me that I'm a fat, ugly cow, and that
Mhm.
thought is coming in, which is what my brain used to tell me, which is ridiculous. I can choose to
Yeah.
not think a thought that hurts me. I can let that just pass on by and choose another thought. We can change our neural pathways. So instead of that thought coming in, we can choose another thought. And the more we do that, the stronger that neural pathway becomes so that we don't even need to think about it. And of course, the best way to do that is in a state of relaxation with the
Mm,
RTT.
yeah. And that part there is the metacognitive psychology part of the program. So
Yeah.
there are many things within the Red 10. RTT is just one part, and it's
Yes,
a very
absolutely.
powerful part. There are a lot of other things I learned along the way that were so
Yes.
helpful to me. Like
Yeah.
just when I did metacognitive psychology training, I went, that's it. I've cracked the code. This is definitely, now that I know
Yes.
this, but it wasn't enough, because I say you can be a good surfer, of the waves that come. And that's like choosing my thoughts. No, I'm going to let that thought go. But when you're hijacked, the mind doesn't want to let the thought go, and it's very powerful and very strong. And it's a bit like, I don't know, stuffing your face with chocolate when you didn't really want to do that, but you do it anyway because, like, I don't care now. It's just all over. You're hijacked by that sort of Jekyll Hyde thing, which is why the rapid transformational therapy is really important as well, to reduce those tsunamis that come and crash us, which we
Mhm.
can't possibly surf. So.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rachelle. We'll wind up there. We could go on
Yes, we could.
all day long, and there's so much to talk about. And it's such a fascinating subject and conversation. But I'm just
For sure.
so pleased that our paths crossed, and that now there's this
Yeah, me too,
ripple.
of course.
If you found this episode helpful, I'd love it if you could take a moment to rate and review the podcast. Your support helps us reach more women who might need this message of hope and healing. And don't forget to share this episode with anyone who could benefit from it, a friend, a sister, or someone in your community. You can follow me on Instagram at Natalie Ryan Hebert and at the Red Tent PMDD. I'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you there.